Hello everyone, welcome back to the Humble Coder. I am Rahul and in today's tutorial, we are going to dive into an interesting topic in React.js, which is styling in React.js. So we are going to learn styling in React.js using our good old CSS. By the end of this video, you will be equipped with the skills to create visually stunning and responsive user interfaces. So let's get started. So first of all, let's discuss about what we are going to see in this video and then we will move forward. First of all, there are different ways of styling in React.js using CSS. We are going to see all those ways. So those ways includes inline CSS, external CSS and module CSS in React.js. Now, don't get confused. These methods we also have in the normal HTML to incorporate the CSS in HTML. But here in React, the procedure is quite different. So it is important for you to know this also. At the end of the video, we are also going to take up an interview question based on this topic, and I'm very sure that that interview question will be very helpful for all of you. So guys, if you also want to access the code that I am doing in the video, how can you access it? You just have to go on my GitHub repository sections, and then there you will find the repository with the name React tutorial. Once you click on that repository, you will find the commit section where there are many commits which I have done. I'll tell you how to access a particular commit and the code of a particular video. So you can see there are 11 commits to this repository as of now. When I click on it, you can see the commits with the name, a video number and the topic of the video. Once you click on this, you can go at the particular file and have your code in this way. So let's get started. First of all, before we begin, let's talk about why understanding CSS and React.js is important. CSS gives us the power to transform a simple collection of components into an engaging and cohesive user interface. So now that we know that what is the importance of CSS in React, let's straight away look at the first way of styling, which is our inline styles. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the coding this time in app.js itself. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to write the snippet RAFCE, which will give me a functional component. And once I save it, let's have a look on the screen. So you might see that the app will be displayed over here because in our app.js, app is the content that we have as of now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this default content, and here only I will create this React fragment, and I'm going to write 4 statements, 4 headings I'm going to write. So first of all, I'm going to write inline style, inline CSS. Then I'll copy this 3 more times. So we will see by applying the styles by every method. So at the second point, we'll write external CSS. Then we have something called as module CSS. And there is no such internal CSS, but there is a way in which we can write internal CSS too in React.js, which is kind of a way in which we write internal CSS in HTML. So I'm going to explain you that too. Once I save it, you can now see we have this 4 lines displayed on the screen. Now we are going to apply CSS on all of these lines using our different methods. First of all, let's have a look at the inline CSS. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write style tag as we normally do it, but this time we will take 2 curly braces. Why? First one is for the style tag, style attribute that we have taken. Now this is for mentioning the JSX. So this curly bracket tells us there is JSX code inside it, and the second one is because here in React, when we mention the properties of CSS, we mention it as an object. So suppose if I have to mention the color as red, I will mention it like this. So this means that I have used the property as an object. So once I save it, you can now see the inline CSS being applied. Now you might have confusion that what if we have to apply more than one styles in inline. So what I'll do, I'll just put a comma, and here on itself I'll write another property, background color. One more thing to note over here is, so you see when I have written background color, I have not written it the usual way like we used to do in CSS. So you see in CSS we used to write background color as like this, background dash color, but here in React we write this property names like this using the camel case conventions. Background and the C of the color will be capital. Now I'll mention my property as for example blue. Once I save it, you can see both the things now applied, both the stylings are now applied at the same time, both of the properties. Moving on to our next way, which is our external style sheet. So you already might know that for external CSS, we have to create one separate file. So I'll quickly create one more file called as styles.css, and we'll apply our properties in that file. Styles.css is now created. Okay, so once I save it, now I'm having my styles.css. I'll simply import this file over here. So I'll write the import statement. Make sure to give the path properly. Once this is done, what we are going to do is we are going to give the class over here. Now the way of class writing the class is using this keyword class name. You have to be careful about it. We just don't write the class like we used to do in normal HTML. Here we make use of class name. Now we have to give the class name. For example, we can give the class name as anything like primary, we can keep it. And once I'll save it, now we have to go and define this class over here. So I'll write simply primary, and I'll define that the color should be blue. Okay, once this is done, I'll save it. And now when we look at on the page, you can see that the external CSS is now applied and the color of our text is changed to blue. In the similar way, we can apply as many properties to this class as we want. And in the similar way, we can also apply an ID. So ID, if we have to apply, we'll just write the attribute ID and give the ID name. Now let's move on to the third method, which is module CSS. So for module CSS also, we need to create one separate file. So I'll tell you how to do that. So I'm going to create a file called as custom.module.css. Now one thing to note over here is whenever you are okay, so basically we have to create a file, not a folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete it basically, and I'm going to create a file only. Okay, so I'm in my app.js, and at this level only I'll create the file custom.module.css. Now one thing to note over here is whenever we create a modules.css file, we always have to use this extension, that is .module.css. okay, so once I enter it, now my custom CSS file is created, and I'll add the properties over in this file. So again, as always, let's first of all import that file over here. So import. Now one thing to take care while importing this file is, let me first write the file name, custom.module.css. okay, so we have to import it in this way. Import styles as from this. Okay, so in this way we import a module.css file, so using this word. Okay, now what we are going to do is whenever we are going to give the class name, we will give it this way. So class name is, so right now first of all let's define the class. So I'll write the class name as Vaughn. This time you can take any class name of your choice. So I'm going to give the color as yellow. Okay, so once I save it, now our class name is Vaughn. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll not directly write the name as Vaughn. Instead I will write styles.vaughn. Now there are a lot of advantages of using this modules.css over the global style sheet, and also we are going to see these advantages in a few minutes now. But before that, let us see whether the changes are applied or not. So let's refresh it, and you can see we have done some mistake. So styles.vaughn. So now one thing to note over here is we will not apply the class name like this inside the inverted quotes. What we will do is instead of it, we will apply inside it curly braces. So styles.vaughn. So these are small things which are like the syntax that you have to take care, because these all only results in errors. So you can see styles.vaughn, when we have written this inside the brackets, now it is easily applied. Now there is the last way, which is internal CSS. So we can also provide the internal CSS here. What we will do is we will create a constant basically, and I'll write the constant as success. Okay, and I'll write the CSS properties here. So I'll write the color as green. So what we have done is we have written all of our CSS properties and we have assigned it to a constant. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make use of style tag, and I'm going to here only provide the constant name. So in this way, once this is done, when I will save it, this is now applied to it. So in this way we can also apply the internal CSS. So I hope now you have got the idea of all the types of stylings that we can apply on React.js. The first one was our internal CSS, where we have provided the properties within the same line. The second one was our external CSS, where we have explicitly created a different file and added the properties over there, and then we have imported it into the app.js. And the third one was module.css, and the last one was internal CSS, where we have made use of a constant and assigned the CSS properties to that constant. So in that way we have seen all the 4 different methods. Now coming to our 5th point, which is our interview question. Now this interview question is very important because many times it is being asked. So the question is, explain the concept of CSS modules and how they address the challenges of global CSS and React applications. So first of all, basically we have to explain what is the concept of this CSS modules, right? So right now we have seen how to add the CSS modules. Basically what we do is we create a separate file, and while creating that CSS file, we make sure that the extension of that file is .modules.css. Okay, apart from this, we also have seen how to add that in our code like this way. So after that is done, we have applied the CSS using the modules. Now we have to explain this concept of it and what is the advantage of using this method. So let's see the answer for it. CSS modules are a technique used in React application to scope CSS style to individual components. So this is very important. So in this way, what we are doing is we are applying the specific CSS properties to an individual component, preventing global style conflicts and improving modularity. When you use CSS modules, each component's styles are isolated and assigned unique class names, ensuring that the styles only affect the intended component. So I'll tell you what this piece is. What we have done over here is we have created this separate CSS file called as custom.module.css, and what all of the properties that we are going to write in this CSS file are specific to this component only. So at any point of time, whenever we are applying this CSS styles, we are very much making sure that these styles will not be applicable to any other component, because we are importing it this way and then applying it using the unique class name. So here we have applied, we have used this styles dot and then the class name, right? So what this does is this gives a unique class name to our class, to our like property that we have, okay, to our element. So here we have the element. So here what we are doing is we are giving styles.one, which is a totally unique class name. So because of that, there is no conflicts that happen. And usually what happens in other ways, what we do is we create a global style sheet. For example, if I would have created this global style sheet, that is styles.css, and in multiple components, if this style sheets is getting rendered, then in that case, if there is similar class name like primary in other component, then this style will be applied to those components too. Okay, so that is the main advantage of using CSS modules, that what it does is it provides the unique class name. Also, it is only applicable for the individual components. Now we have taken an example to explain this. So suppose we have a React component named as button and we want to style it using the CSS modules. So first of all, we have created this button.modules.css, and in that we have made the class .button, and inside that we have mentioned all the properties. Okay, after that what we have done is we have created one component called as button.js. In that what we are doing is we are importing this module files, and using this way import styles from and the file name. Okay, and after that what we are doing is we are writing the class name as styles.button. Basically we have already seen that how to define a module CSS file and how to import it inside your component. So this way we do it, and it provides us various benefits as I have already explained you. So the explanation for this is, in this example, the styles from the button.module.css are scoped to the button component. So now, like, scoped means they are specifically attached to the button component and not to any other component. By importing the styles using the styles object, we apply the unique class name generated by the CSS modules. This ensures that the styles are contained within the component and won't affect the other parts of the application. So these are the basic advantages, and there are many times where this same questions has been asked in the interview, and many people gets confused between the normal external CSS way and this modular way of CSS. So this is the main advantage, and this is the difference for it. Also, there is another way in which we can apply CSS styles to the React.js, that is called as styled components. Okay, now that is totally a different topic, and we can even have a separate playlist on that topic. So I'm not going to touch that over here now, because that is out of this scope basically. Maybe if we have some time, we'll cover it later, but as of now, if we only have to understand these different ways, that is inline, external, module, and internal. So yeah, that's all for this video. So I hope you now have got the understanding of all the CSS styles. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the Humble Coder for more exciting web development content. Happy coding, and I'll catch you in the next video.